This is GamesAtWork.biz, your weekly podcast about gaming, technology, and play. Your hosts are Michael Martine, Andy Piper, and Michael Rowe. The thoughts and opinions on this podcast are those of the hosts and guests alone and are not the opinions of any organization which they have been, are, or may be affiliated with. This is episode 555. 1212. Hello, everybody, and welcome again to GamesAtWork.biz, which is, hopefully, your weekly technology podcast, the one that you listen to every week. My name is Andy Piper. I am joined, as often, by my two co-hosts, Michael Rowe and Michael Martine. Michael Rowe, how are you?
I am well, Andy. Glad you're back. Hope you had a great time last week. And I am also joined by a guy named Michael Martine. How are you?
That's so funny. I'm joined by Michael Martine as well. It's amazing. I'm so excited, Andy, that we're back together, all together, you, me, Michael, for this week. And I am super deluxe excited about all the hard work that you've done about improving our site and getting things organized, ready, and rocking and rolling here with now even speedier downloads and speedier uploads. And you're making a face. Why are you making a face?
Well, I mean, it was... Yeah, our listeners hopefully haven't noticed very much, but it's been an interesting week of migration. We've been meaning to move away from a previous host for quite some time, and we finally got to the point of, okay, we're doing it. So I haven't written a blog post about it yet. I noticed that Michael Rowe has done briefly.
Well, just very briefly.
But yeah, it's a little bit of a different setup. It means that we have a lot more control, but sometimes a little bit too much control. So there's a few extra things that we need to twiddle and do ourselves. But that's okay. It's a good opportunity to get my hands dirty. And yeah, as you say, it's quite nice to see things at the moment zipping along. So we're still on our WordPress, and things will look almost identical, which is very much intentional. We've got some thoughts about maybe changing things up in the future, and we can do that now. But not immediately. Let's let things
stabilize and settle.
Exactly. Yeah.
Stay on target.
So that was the software part of the story, but you have a hardware part of the story too. In fact, you're using a specialized piece of hardware kit even right now, aren't you?
Right, but that's yes. I have a hardware
not related
story.
to the site,
not related, but yes.
I mean, we could make it related to the site by forcing me to use this piece of hardware every time I do any administration on the site, but that would just be irritating. There's a company called Ploopy out of Canada,
which is an awesome
and
name.
They have for a while been making these open source input devices. I think they started out with a trackball that you could assemble yourself, and it's all 3D printable and so on. The software is all open source. It's using QMK, which is an open source. Originally it was a customizable keyboard firmware, and now it's expanded to other input devices. And they've made a range of different types of trackball, including a miniature nano one. They've done a few other things. They've got a trackpad as well, but they came out with this thing which had a familiar-looking little pointing device to some of our listeners who I know come from a similar background to the three of us. That was very familiar on the old and on current, I believe, trackpad devices. Trackpad? What? It is a trackpad.
TrackPoint.
TrackPoint. Thank you. On the ThinkPad is what I was trying to say. Thank you very much.
No, that's a ThinkPod.
ThinkPad. Yeah. So yeah, it's the little pointing joystick that you get for your fingertip on the that IBM and Toshiba had on their laptops back in the day. And instead of sitting in the middle of a keyboard, this one sits like off to the side, much like a mouse. So you don't need to move your hand around; you can just move your fingertip. It's super sensitive, so you can do very, very fine adjustments with it. And you can reconfigure it. And I just thought I needed to get one of those for old time's sake, and using it right now. It's quite nice.
If they would just make a full-on laptop
keyboard with the
keyboard with that you could plug on top of any laptop and just rip out the old keyboard, or for desktop. I know Lenovo, I think, stopped selling the
external
wired 101 key keyboard with TrackPoint.
which had it. Yes, I know. And there's been various attempts to recreate it for third-party open source-ish / open laptops like the Framework and the MNT Reform.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's been particularly successful at doing it, but and yes, you're right. This doesn't sit in the keyboard; it sits off to one side, but it has a lot of the same affordances in terms of the precision. The by default the left and right mouse buttons are behind the track point, so you sort of use your thumb still to hit them as you would on an old ThinkPad. So yeah, it's fun. I don't use it all the time. It is a wired device. It actually runs on the RP2040, the Raspberry Pi Pico chip, as many of their devices do. So it's not wireless. It does need to be plugged in, but it works out of the box with all of the operating systems very straightforwardly.
So if you need a TrackPoint 2 type device for your Mac, you could now have this, and it can make you happy.
And listeners will remember that my relationship with Logitech has been troublesome, especially with all of the nonsense they want to force onto your laptop when you install their...
Adding an AI to a mouse driver?
Right, exactly. All of that sort of thing. The huge chunk of code that they install when you want to just use one of their devices. So, yeah.
Well, longtime listeners of the show will know that we normally wait until close to the end to do some media-related stuff, but we're all three big fans of the Guild. And Andy, I think you were the first. Yeah,
what is that?
What is that?
The Guild?
Yeah, TV show. We all know this. Codex.
Well, it was a
Vork, Tink, all these great people.
It was a YouTube series rather than a video series, online series rather than a TV show. But yeah, Felicia Day put together this show. As it turns out, 20 years ago, which is
that's insane.
It's a terrifying thought, but that is what they're why they're reuniting right now. It was a Dungeons D&D or online D&D gamer group of misfits that had adventures together on the internet and in real life, and they're doing a reunion movie they're describing it as. There's a Kickstarter that's about to be underway. You can go sign up and get on the mailing list to get notified when that happens, and help them to crowdfund it. I really enjoyed the Guild, so I would be surprised if I didn't enjoy whatever they come out with this time.
Yeah, and the thing that I loved about it, not only about the Guild, but also some of the videos that the team did afterwards, like Do You Want to Date My Avatar and Game On and the others. And then my product group used and got Felicia Day to come as host of one of our big conferences. And I know I met her and got to talk to her. And I think Michael, that was the year that you came to the conference. And I think there's a picture of you with her. I've got a picture with her, everything. And
yep.
Felicia was just awesome. And then years later, I read her biography that she wrote, and she talked about what was going on while she did that conference and the other ones year. And it was so stressful and so negative, which I can understand. So I thought it was just, she's such a professional. I really enjoy her as a performer and as an internet celebrity. So can't wait to see what comes out of this Kickstarter. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that was on the radar for folks who may not have seen it, and there may have been also, like us, fans of that show.
Yeah, so check out the links below. We'll have all kinds of things to videos and movies and other connections, so you can check it out. If you don't know about the Guild, this is your opportunity to learn more. Now, going from one celebrity to another, we have
and into the mandatory AI segment of the show.
That will never die for some reason.
Yeah, we're not gonna boo ourselves, but others have, and we have an example of Woz from Apple fame, Steve Wozniak, who gave a graduation speech that actually had some applause for his version of AI, which was a little bit different than some of the others that came from our Google leadership and so on and so forth. Andy, you watched this as well, didn't you? You had a chance to see this?
I mean, I think it's interesting because there is a series of videos recently in the last couple of months, probably more recent than that, even in the last 4 weeks, of people doing commencement or graduation or other speeches referring to AI where they are generally loudly booed by students. And in this case, Steve Wozniak refers to AI, but he uses it as actual intelligence.
Yes, I love that.
It is quite interesting. I was talking about it over the last couple of days with a few people, and I was at a school. My high school had an event yesterday for people that donate, and the headmaster gave an outstanding speech to the group of us that were having lunch, updating us on the progress of the school and the pupils, and talked with passion about his interest in this space and how to ensure that youngsters have a well-rounded education, critical thinking, all of the things that you need to be building into education, even as education becomes more and more digital and digitally focused. So he also had a phrase that I'm not going to include here because it may be something for the future, but got me very excited in relation to what the school is intending to do to help next year's, in particular, youngsters to get to grips with this stuff. So I just saw a lot of alignment between these two angles around, how can we take that buzzword or that buzz phrase and turn it on its head, focus on the important part of it, which is humans, people, actual people with actual brains, rather than attempts to recreate humanity in a different form, which is seemingly very challenging, and I believe will remain very challenging.
Love it. Yeah. Love it. And 'tis the season, too, for all of these graduation speeches to be happening. There's graduations one after the other right now. So it's been intriguing to hear what so many people have had to say about this and other related advice for young people beginning their careers and moving into the working world after finishing up their university degree programs. Staying with the AI theme here for a bit, and not the actual intelligence version, but the artificial intelligence one. There was an article I saw in Variety where Spotify is, and this is not the disco ball, where Spotify is now putting an approved, verified by Spotify for those podcasts that are not generated by AI. So if they're real people talking like this one right here, we would in theory be eligible for said verification badge.
So I guess the question becomes, how are they verifying it?
Yes, exactly.
Well, maybe they call up a special Google number and the Google voice answers that says, yes, this is a real podcast.
Yeah, because I really know you're being snarky, but I really wonder how they do this, especially as so many content farms, including Amazon Alexa, are generating content as podcasts. People did it for a long time, 2 years now, with Gemini.
Internet times forever,
right? With creating, take this stuff and spit me out a podcast so I can hear about stuff. And what are the rules? Is it no content is generated? Is it the speakers aren't generated? I mean, there's so many things that can be considered AI generated in the context of a podcast.
I think this is interesting as well. So I'm glad that they are looking to ban or reduce the visibility of AI, exclusively AI generated content, and we'll come onto that in the next piece. But I am concerned that this gives Spotify even more power over shows, right? I mean, as somebody once said, get it wherever you get your podcasts is a revolutionary idea, right? The idea of podcasts being built on top of an open protocol technology like RSS, and anybody being able to get them from anywhere and not being gatekept by Apple or Spotify or anyone else is interesting. And the idea of Spotify slapping a verification badge, having worked at Twitter, I know how challenging that verification process is, and people are rightly wary of it because of the intrusiveness of some of the processes that happen with it now when it comes to identity verification. And as Michael just said, I mean, what are the criteria? Are we prominent enough? Are we eligible? It says we must meet, or the podcast must meet Spotify standards for authenticity and trust. So I think, one, for our listeners, keep an eye on how long it takes before, if you use Spotify, before our show shows up with one of these badges, because I've no idea how long it will take before we get approached, or before somebody goes to the effort of marking us as verified. And I have no doubt that they suddenly have a massive rush of individuals all trying to get their shows authenticated, and then possibly reselling their authenticated feed to people with less great motives. Let's see what happens.
Yep. And there's a whole set of steps. I've just been looking here while we're talking about what needs to occur. So
tell me what I can spend my bank holiday weekend jumping through hoops for the people in Sweden. I can just do a little dance through hoops if they want.
Yeah, well, we probably don't have enough of an artist profile already on Spotify to begin with. So
we've only been,
and this is a problem, right? Because it means that it will reinforce
identity management that is gatekept, right?
Well, it will reinforce the existing media status quo of, the big names and and this is not me being salty about our show. It's me thinking about this in the democratization of content and of access for everyone. How visible or how invisible will it make people that don't either pony up cash or have some other kind of existing profile to enable people's content to be discovered and shared and enjoyed by many?
Yep. So Michael,
I think people know that the three of us, have been pretty chill about our relative lack of celebrity as podcasters over a very long time. We joke about it, and we do it because we enjoy doing it. But we also enjoy it when new people discover us, and we don't spend our own personal money on anything other than hosting the show.
Yeah, and let's face it. I mean, we've been podcasting together for 20 years off and on.
We should do a reunion movie,
Like we could call it Felicia Day.
Yeah.
or any other of our celebrity guests, who joined us once upon a time or twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that would be super fun, wouldn't it?
Veronica Belmont. We could have her on.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And we'll promise to hit the big red button the first time. I was looking at Notebook LM.
There, Michael.
Yeah, Notebook LM does this too, right?
That's what I was talking about 2 years ago when they started doing it. Yeah.
And I've generated podcasts that way, and I've gone through, actually, interestingly enough, some education and training recently. That one of the training mechanisms, in addition to here's a video or here's something to read, here's a podcast for you to listen to, and honestly, that level of here's a podcast to listen to is kind of annoying, because I know off the top that it is generated and not real. Right. Yep. And it's the two people with the banter between them and some ums and ahs that make it sound like it's real, but it's not. So not my favorite. And Michael, you were just talking a minute or two about Amazon, right? Doing some AI generated podcasts.
Yeah, it's almost like I was setting up the story.
Well,
you were.
Yeah, I mean, the Amazon story is slightly different, and it's more similar in some ways to what we talked about, Michael, Martine and I talked about 2 weeks ago with the furore in the knitting world around these artificially generated, and it's also similar to the Notebook LM thing, artificially generated ones, rather than people impersonating or attempting to fool people with inauthentic content.
What about this Tech Dirt article, Michael, around Amazon getting into they're calling it the AI podcast slop business. So pod slop, maybe, because we have to have a fun word for this, don't we?
Yeah, I think it's just so I like Tech Dirt because they take a look at many of the topics that we look at, but from a legal perspective, et cetera, and kind of, they can be kind of snarky. So I think they took the Verge article and extended kind of logical where it's going to. And so my whole thing on both of these articles is kind of there's different types of gatekeepers. And Andy, you got the right gatekeeper discussion on Spotify, and I'm saying, and Amazon has a different way of doing the gatekeeping. You're right.
This is great. There's a great call out here in the middle of the Tech Dirt piece, which mentions that the other stories from other outlets, the Variety and Verge, didn't comment on the best part of the clip that Amazon used as an example, which is literally where the female voice software says, there's no gatekeeping. If you make something real, people are going to find it, and the algorithm is working for artists in a way it wasn't 5 years ago. It's
yeah, right.
It's incredibly tone deaf and very frustrating. Yeah.
I think, and we've talked ad nauseum, is that the right phrase I'm thinking of, about kind of the race to the bottom with AI knowledge ingestion and not creation of real content, and how quickly are we going to get to the tipping point where 80 to 90% of the stuff that people are looking for is actually AI generated instead of the real content created by users that adds new value.
And I just want to loop back to the conversation that I had at my school event yesterday. And also later in the same day, I went to the Internet of Things meetup in London, where the host, which has been running for 15 years, and the host said, look, I'm not ever going to call this the physical AI meetup. As
I
a nod
that.
to
I thought that was perfect.
A nod to the, encroachment of these terms on all things. But this idea of authenticity becoming something that is valued with a premium, I think is really important. Now, there's a danger that becomes muddied by people then striving for those authentic verified badges. If that's what we put value on, if we value the blue check mark, which you can now buy for $8 a month from Twitter for as many bots as you can afford, right? Then you're valuing the wrong thing. You need to actually build real connections. You need to have real opinions. You need to make mistakes. You need to own those mistakes. You need to, not be the agreeable and with inbuilt bias, natured stuff that's coming from AI. And I think I equally, similarly to the author of the piece on Tech Dirt, want to believe that these authentic opinions and authentic connections will be valued and can be valued.
I think should be valued.
Well, and that's a value judgment that we have, which unfortunately flies in the face of people with lots of money and compute power and other things to drive it in a different direction. So there's the truthiness indicator that needs to be applied here too, which kind of pushes folks, doesn't it, to this is an authentic human voice with an authentic opinion. And now we're right back again where we started, which is how and who do you trust to verify that? And if it's, I know Andy offline because I've met you and I've seen you in person, and therefore I know that's obviously an impossibility in our global reach and the connections that we have now. It's a strange problem and a strange world we're living into, isn't it? Right?
It is. And I was talking to some older members of the group at the lunch yesterday, where they were talking about this challenge as they see it, with young people surrounded by AI models and digital ways of learning. How do we ensure that they have critical thinking skills when all of their knowledge is potentially disintermediated by tech tools and platforms and companies. And the answer is it's hard. There is no single answer to this. In the same way, there's no single answer to how do you verify and prove that you've known somebody and that they're real, short of meeting them in person. You may not do that in the future,
and you may not have
still.
You may not have actually met them because it could be somebody acting as them.
Well, or you have met them. And
you've met someone who says they're
using an assistant or an agent to communicate with you.
That's possible.
Because that's happening now as well, right? You can have your auto email reply, which happens already, generate a response to the query that you just get. I don't know. There's a lot to this, and a much to unpack as we go forward. And Michael, there's a point that kind of relates to AI and some of the new accessibility capabilities that Apple is bringing forward.
Well,
right?
I purposely chose this article after seeing everything else over the last week on AI because this is positive use. And so one thing that Apple does every year, right around this time, is they're in alignment with Global Accessibility Awareness Day, is they announce what new accessibility features are going to be worked on over the next year, et cetera. And Apple's taken a lot of heat for the last few years on how bad their AI story is. How much they overpromised and underdelivered, et cetera. And what they're showing here appears to be new capabilities in the scope of accessibility features that'll be powered on the new AI stuff that they're implementing or are rumored to be implementing with WWDC coming up in 2.5 weeks. And what's really exciting is how they're using some of the basic AI features of image recognition and other features to improve the accessibility features on the iPhone. And Andy, you have a thing.
Well, I think this is great for sure, and I think it's interesting that these are the two things coming together. I think another way of looking at this is headlines after WWDC is 5 things that Apple Sherlocked this year, and one of them is Be My Eyes, which is a tool that lots of people have been using to get assistance. But of course, it's wonderful if that is built into the device and you don't need to be asking somebody on the other side or anywhere on the planet to help you to see something. We did cover a few months ago a BBC show with a blind presenter where he went to California and tested out a ton of new tools and accessibility aids that was in this same vein. But I think it is that there are very solid good outcomes from the development of this technology, and I'm excited by these as well.
Well, and so many of these, so many of these are features that they've been working on prior to this for a very long time that have been very good. They've not been at the level of some of the additional things that you would buy for assistance, right? And the more and more that those capabilities get built into the operating system or into the hardware, the more accessible they are for all users, instead of having to go out and buy an additional accessibility feature. So the thing that most people don't think about when they hear accessibility is not just a feature for people who have some reason to buy accessibility. They make things better for everyone.
I agree with you completely. I'm going to suggest, though, because we're running short on time, and there's a topic we want to talk about, especially for one of our listeners, and because we're all interested in it as well, that we skip over the piece from the Atlantic here, which we'll include in the show notes, which is about countermeasures to AI wearables surveilling you as you go around. So I'll leave that one, a reference to it in the show for you to go and come to the site, check out the link, and have a read if you're able to read links from the Atlantic, and instead move on to a link that we got in from I saw because our friend Ian Epred backed this on Kickstarter, and I get notifications that say, your friend has just backed this thing, and I had a look, and I believe, Michael, you had a ping from him as well, but this is a Virtual Worlds Museum.
Yeah, and what's really cool about that, and I'm going to transition back and back forward, is I did want to mention the one feature that they added that I had not thought about and I've never thought about was wheelchair navigation for the Vision Pro. Because I've been doing some really cool stuff in there, and I think accessibility around movement is a feature you wouldn't think about on an iPhone, and that got me thinking about the Vision Pro, which is around virtual reality and physical reality, which would have been a beautiful transition into the Virtual World History Museum.
Well, there you go. And as you can tell, listeners, as usual, we are on point. We've thoroughly prepared everything we're going to say to you, and that's how you can tell that we are definitely AI.
Yes. No, I love the video of this. I thought the Kickstarter is a really cool thing. When ePred reached out to me with it too, I was like, do I have money to put aside? They can take $1, right? So
yeah, it's one of those things that I think I'll probably back because I strongly care about it. But
yeah, same here.
I'm not sure how much I'll put in here. But my first thought was Ian should be like hosting this thing, right?
Absolutely,
or at least speaking on it,
narrating the documentary, right, or whatever this comes, or be the virtual tour guide for the Virtual Worlds Museum.
I'm still wondering, when it's done. How will this scale? If they're going to make virtual spaces available in the future so you can relive those spaces, how will that scale? I mean, it's just infinite number of potential old virtual worlds that they have to recreate and maintain and keep working on new hardware and new operating system or new web browsers or new web technology. I mean, there's so many things that pop into my mind of how can they do this while I'm cheering from the other side saying, please do this, please do this.
You mean there's not like a default Kubernetes setup for Apple II capabilities that you just spin up a new one when you need it? Or for Newton?
You say that. There's another link we have here just to head towards the exit for the Virtual Operating System Museum, which is a download you can go get from the virtualosmuseum.org. Huge multi-gigabyte download. But it gives you a set of emulators for all of these old operating systems going back to the 70s, I believe here.
CPM.
Certainly really, really niche systems as well as much more mainstream ones. And yeah, there's no reason why, should you need one of those, you wouldn't install one of these old virtual worlds on it, I suppose.
Sure.
The point of the virtual world was to be there together, and if you're running your local VM,
I think there's an element of preservation of the environments, but also the narration of the stories of the people who inhabited those spaces. I wanted to just round up because it was something that came to me during the show, and we talked about virtual worlds at the end here. But we also talked a bit about identity in this episode, and something that I came across my radar just today was this really interesting website which enables you to explore the historical geospatial information about a historical set of letters from the 14th and 15th centuries between traders, primarily in Italy, but across the south of Europe and as far north as London. It really gave me the Michael, you were saying, how do people know whether they've met? Have they met? When were these letters being sent? How do you know that they're getting to their destination? All of those kind of things. These are problems that have existed for hundreds of years. Are these people my friend or not? If I've only met them in person once or possibly never, I'm just corresponding with them in an analog form in this case. This is just a really nice visualization that came through my inbox through one of the newsletters I followed today.
And you can see Cambini Piero and how he communicated with people in Pisa from London.
Exactly.
And so, therefore, he's probably real, unless there was an AI time traveler that created documentation.
But also the numbers of letters sent between these routes is vast. Phenomenal. 5,000 letters and down to one single letter.
And nobody sent letters to Germany.
Well, just in this particular geospatial,
this period of time.
This is awesome.
Anywho, that's all we have time for. But it's
yes. Oh my gosh,
we've been all over the map, which is an appropriate way to end.
Well, if you want to have your map represented, drop us a line over at gamesatwork.biz and we'll pick it up the next time and maybe even write you a letter back to prove that we're real. Maybe.
And if you need to contact us if you need to contact the show as well, you can always contact us at podcast@gamesatwork.biz, and we have that old-fashioned digital mail system that you can send us stuff to, and we'll should be able to pick that up
next time at gamesatwork.biz.
See ya.
See you, everyone. Bye.
You've been listening to GamesAtWork.biz, the podcast about gaming, technology, and play. We are part of the Blueberry Podcasting Network, and would like to thank the band Random Encounters for their song, Big Blue. You can follow us at our website at GamesAtWork.biz.